He's also an amateur astronomer and is past president of the Mid-Hudson Astronomical Association, where he currently is on the board of directors. His other interests include bicycling and jazz, as well as being a volunteer for the American Red Cross. Okay, Willie, take it away.
Again, I recommend you come down to the third row. It's going to be a lot easier to see there and to come up and help me out, which I'm going to need. I'm going to start with the fact that magicians as well as scientists get accused of being impractical, particularly by our spouses. So I'm going to start off with something eminently practical that we'll all use and love, and that is how to double your money. Take the largest bill you have, take this corner, put it over here. This corner goes over here. You press a crease here, and you've doubled your money. Since you're not impressed, it's obviously because you know you need magic if you want the big bucks. Okay, thank you, Franklin. Okay, I'm going to point this up to the ceiling. So go to the next one. There we go. And the next one, I'm going to give you an overview of what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about how science provides material for magic, how magic can be used to teach science, how science can inform magic performance, and how magic can inform scientific investigation. So we'll begin with a definition of magic. This is important because if you ask 10 magicians to define magic, you'll get 15 answers. But I'll start with Dr. Larry Haas, who's the dean of the Magic and Mystery School. And he defines magic as the artful performance of impossible things that generates energy, delight, and wonder. That will be our working definition for this evening. Now, Dr. Haas is a retired philosophy professor, so you can bet that he thought about every word of this. So we want to generate energy, delight, and wonder. Some scientists have a problem with the word wonder, but Einstein certainly didn't. He considered the mysterious one of the greatest things that could be experienced, and that those who had no longer any sense of wonder were as good as dead. So I invite you to experience what I'm going to show you tonight as a wonder, not as a puzzle to be solved. I'm going to start with how I got involved in magic. And like all good things, it starts with Star Trek. I was involved with the project called Star Trek New Voyages, or Star Trek Phase 2, up in Ticonderoga, New York, where we made a dozen new episodes of Star Trek. You can still see these either on YouTube or on the Star Trek New Voyages site. And some of them are pretty good. We even got George Takei and Walter Koenig to come and star in a couple of those episodes. So while I was up there, I met this fellow, the big guy in the middle, not the kid with the bottle. It was Terry Morgan. Terry lives in Catskill, New York, and he was the front desk security guy. And if you've ever been to a film shoot, there's a lot of downtime. And so he'd spend some time doing magic tricks for the crew. It turns out he had been a professional magician. He had worked at Disney World, Six Flags, done corporate events at the Javits Center, etc. I got interested in watching him do these magic tricks, and one day he showed me how it worked. That was even more interesting. So I asked him to if he would take me on as a student. And he said he would. And over the next couple years, we developed this character, Sakaya Volcker. He is commercial, Vulcan's greatest magician, and he's available for in-person or online Star Trek magic shows. But my real reason for getting into magic was the Red Cross. I've been a Red Cross volunteer for quite a few years and spent a lot of time in shelters where people are bored or depressed or outright traumatized. And I thought, oh, What am I going to do here? So the Red Cross said, you're a retired psychiatrist, you're going to do mental health. I'm burned out. No, you do mental health. So sticking me into a shelter with hundreds and thousands of people, of course, triggered all my introverted tendencies. Yeah, I know they don't show much anymore, but I thought, well, I'm going to learn some magic. That way I can use that as an icebreaker and introduce myself to them so I can do the psychological first aid or whatever other things we do. As I became a magician, I learned that magic is not an introduction to mental health work. Magic is the mental health work. And as far as I'm concerned, it's more powerful than any psychotherapy I've ever done. After a couple of years, I developed a course for other Red Cross volunteers, particularly shelter workers, so that they could do magic in the shelters. After a couple of years, Terry Morgan said, I've taught you everything I can. If you want to go any further, you need to go to Las Vegas to the Magic and Mystery School. This was founded by Jeff McBride, who's one of the world's top magicians. He used to open for Diana Ross, was one of his gigs, and then later moved on to become a teacher and an investigator into the roots of magic. So I took a master class from him and have been taking courses from the Magic and Mystery School ever since. Nobody graduates from the Magic and Mystery School. They're a student for life. So what do you learn in magic school? People think you go to learn tricks. No. This is a list of stuff that Jeff covers in his master class. So you see presentation, character development, going down the side, originality, showmanship, costume, blah, 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 all this stuff until you get to street magic. It's the first time you're actually going to encounter tricks that you're going to learn. And then later on, there's card magic and coin magic and a bunch of other stuff. So there's a lot to deal with other than tricks. How do we put this together? Well, Gene Gordon, among others, has helped us with this effect. What goes in to a magic effect? Yeah. Okay, so a magic effect consists of a secret, whether that's a gimmick, a sleight of hand, or something else. It also consists of the presentation, all this other stuff up there, the words that you use, where you stand, how you dress, how well you project, all the stuff that the audience sees. The trick is what they don't see. And lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of practice. So, how does this all fit together in performance? Which is the most important? Well, it turns out that all three, 1, 2, 3, are equally important. So you have to have your secret, your presentation, and all your practice. Plus, at the mystery school, we also talk about magic and meaning. What does this mean? Why are you doing this? Why should anyone care? What is the symbolism between all of our magic effects? How does it all fit together? So now you know how an effect is structured with the secret, presentation, and lots of practice. Jeff McBride, the founder of the Magic and Mystery School, wrote a book called The Show Doctor, which has two meanings. The show doctor on Broadway is usually a fellow director who gets brought in the week before the show opens. And he watches the show with a fresh pair of eyes and decides, what's working, what's not working, and makes the final recommendations for what needs to do before the opening. But Jeff uses lots of medical metaphors and puns and all kind of stuff. So he starts with prescriptions for better magic in his book. Because medicine holds a very special place at the Magic and Mystery School, we even have an annual conference called Magic and Medicine. One of our faculty members is Dr. Ricardo Rosenkrantz, who's also on the faculty of the Feinberg School of Medicine at Northwestern University. He teaches a course to medical students on magic and medicine. He is also a performing magician. He even set up his own theater, the Rhapsody Theater in Chicago, for him to perform and to bring other top-level magicians to Chicago. His more recent show is called House Calls, so you can see that if you go to Chicago. Why is he teaching medical students magic? He has several points. First, magic and medicine share the same DNA. We have the same roots at the core of it is our common origin, which is the shaman, otherwise known as the medicine man or woman, the witch doctor, if you will. So originally, healing, illusion, ritual were all combined in one person. And only as cultures developed, and these occur across cultures, there's always somebody who has these functions. Later on, they differentiated into the priest, the healer, and the magician. Dr. Rosenkrantz also makes the point that medicine is a performance art. After teaching them magic and what's important in magic, he says all these same issues you've learned here: how to project, how to relate to the level of your audience, how to structure an action from beginning, middle, and end. So the next time you go to a physician, think about as if you were a Broadway director. Did the physician relate to the audience? Was there a drama? Was there a beginning, a middle, and end? What was their posture? How did their voice project? And you'll see many of the healing aspects of medicine are covered here. It's probably the only time in medical school where what we used to call bedside manner actually gets taught. And finally, Dr. Rosenkrantz makes the point, as Jeff always does, magic is good medicine. There is a group called Magic is Medicine in Long Island, and it's basically set up to have magicians come into hospitals. So if a magician wants to volunteer, they'll find a venue where they can come and perform in hospitals, and also train them. Doing magic in a hospital where you have to maintain sterile or semi-sterile conditions can be challenging. No sponge bowls. If you bring a deck of cards, you got to leave it there, things like that. So my interest is magical memories. The experience of wonder is recorded differently than regular memories. And if you know anything about post-traumatic stress disorder, you know that the traumatic memories are stored in completely different pathways than ordinary memories. These pathways are connected much closely to emotion and to bodily sensations, which is why talk therapy doesn't work. Any effective treatment for PTSD involves some kind of body work or psychopharmacology or some combination thereof. So, can magical memories replace, or at least displace, or at least mute or modify traumatic memories? That's an ongoing question that I'm interested in. So, I'll now go to the specific interaction between magic and science. So science has always provided material for magicians. Jean-Eugène Robert Houdin was the founder of modern magic. He was the first guy to show up on stage on evening clothes instead of big turbans and weird robes and stuff. He said the knowledge of scientific principles, not just the techniques, were essential jobs of the magician. If you don't know who Robert Houdin is, his last name was taken by Eric Weiss, an immigrant from Hungary. although he claimed to be born in Appleton, Wisconsin. And he took his name and added a little I to become Harry Houdini. Magnetism and energy were very popular at Robert Houdin's time, and he had an effect called the light and heavy box. He would bring a large box on stage and then invite the strongest, burliest looking guy to come up and lift up the box. So this fellow would come out and pick up the box and realize he couldn't pick it up. And he'd struggle with it for quite some time until Houdin dismissed him and then invited the frailest person in the audience to come up and go and lift up the box. Well, how did he do that? Of course, a big electromagnet under the stage. I have my own version of this effect. So who'd like to help? Who'd like to experience this? It won't hurt. Okay, Scott. I have here 3 tea boxes, if you remember those from Celestial Seasonings. Please take all 3 of them, pick up the bottom one like this, and lift that up. Okay, get a feeling for how much it weighs. Okay,
Really?
good. Now you're the eyes, ears, and feelings. Now tilt it up once more, and you get that feeling. Now I'm going to take 2 boxes away. This weighs nothing. That box. What do you notice?
It's about the same.
Feels about the same.
Yeah.
Somebody else try it. Not everybody feels this phenomenon interesting. Jack, come on, try it.
Okay.
Lift up all 3. Lift up 1.
Yeah, it feels slightly heavier.
Feels slightly heavier.
Yeah.
Okay, how did I do it?
I know you kept the boson this time.
No electromagnets, but I did use the Higgs boson, which gives mass to things. So in addition to magnetism,
Yes, no?
yes, that's correct. Go ahead. Chemistry and optics, otherwise known as smoke and mirrors, is something magicians use. Here was an effect from Houdin's time called Pepper's Ghost. A ghostly figure would appear on the stage. He would pass rods through it, but the ghost would move and talk. And the way it worked was he had a large piece of back plate glass in front of the stage. I don't know where they got glass that big in those days, but apparently they did. And then the actor would be under the stage, highly illuminated by a bright light, and then the reflection would show a real image to the audience. Optics, of course, led to cinema. Georges Méliès was a prominent magician in Paris. He had his own theater, and one day he encountered the first motion picture. He absolutely had to have and got a camera because he thought that could be used to do magical effects. And he started experimenting with this and got really interested one day when they were filming something. They stopped the camera. The actor stepped out of screen. They started up the camera again. When they played it back, they had the perfect vanish. Actor here, poof, gone. The birth of special effects. Méliès actually gave up magic in order to become a full-time cinematographer and created the classic Trip to the Moon. So cinema and magic have a lot in common. So move to how science can be, or how magic can be used to teach science. Someone asked Bill Nye, how do we teach skeptical children? How do we teach children skeptical thinking? He said, teach them magic. They'll learn that what they see is not necessarily what is. It'll enhance their thinking skills, and they will learn some skeptical thinking. Now, skeptical thinking is very much a part of the history of magic. Houdini spent the last quarter of his life dealing with mediums who were, it was a really hot business. People charging big bucks to talk to your dead relatives. And he went about exposing every one of them. And he even offered a $10,000 reward for anyone who could conclusively demonstrate a psychic phenomenon. But he showed how things like spirit slates, where in the darkened room, always in a darkened room, a slate would appear with a special message written just for that person. Well, there was a guy hiding in the closet who would write down the stuff on the slate and give it to Houdini in the dark. And he'd show all these other things, how bells could ring and things would thump and other kinds of things. More recently, Uri Geller came out of, who knows who Uri Geller is? He came out of Israel. He claimed he could bend metal with his mind. And he actually went through a few scientific panels, and they were all convinced that he could actually do this. And it took a magician, James Randi, otherwise known as the Amazing Randy, to expose him as basically doing magic tricks. And Randy's wrote he wrote another book called Flim Flam on other kinds of psychic fraudulent stuff. So magic can also be used to deliver information. For instance, we can teach science with magic. I need somebody with a steady hand. Scott, you want to try it again, or Jack?
Uh-oh.
What do we got? Yeah.
Oh, this one. I've seen this.
You've seen
I've
this.
seen this. I don't care.
All right. So here's two large nails. Now, the nails, you can see there's a little inscription on the top that says standard. Now, can you balance one nail on top of the other? Try it sideways, because you can lay it right down into the groove. Big hand for Scott here. Now, having done that, do you think I could balance 6 nails on top of one?
On top of one.
I will show you. All right, check out this box. There's no magnets in there.
Okay.
All right. I'm just going to use that because my hands are not that steady.
Okay.
1 nail. 6 nails. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we have 6 nails balanced on top of one. Actually, this is easier than 1 nail balanced on top of one.
Yeah.
Why? Next slide. Where's the center of gravity? So now you have an introduction to center of mass or center of gravity, and you can start with here and end up with the calculus if you wish. Okay, thank you.
Apologize to the group. Eric left and he didn't shift the camera onto that. That was really good.
We can still see it.
So,
The signal going out is getting it.
Oh, there you are.
Hopefully.
Okay.
I ran out of battery, so I've shifted to this.
all right, so here,
Okay, cool.
who wants to help me with this one? This one is less literal. This is more figurative. We're going to talk about, next slide, Schrodinger's cat. All right. I have here the cat, we'll call her Queenie. I have here the box, which has a 50% chance of killing the cat. So I'm going to fold this one here, like so. All right, so we got that there. And then I'm going to fold the cat so she fits inside the box. And I insert the cat into the box. Now, is the cat alive or dead? Is the card face down or face up? If we look, we might find it's face down or find face up, but if we don't look, the only true answer is it is both face down and face up at the same time. Schrodinger's cat. So we'll go into how science can inform magic performance. For the first 100 years, there was very little investigation of this by science. So by 1995, there weren't even 10 studies, but somewhere in there, this exponential curve broke, and now there's over 200 studies of magic. I'm going to go into one of these in some detail because it's one that teaches a lot to magicians. This is done by Joshua J., who's a New York magician. He runs a magic store called Vanishing Ink. He's written a couple of books. By the way, all this stuff, a lot of this stuff is in the handouts. And he wanted to know whether many of the things that magicians assume about their audiences are true. So he commissioned the Department of Psychology at the College of New Jersey to do a study into a number of these questions. The end is quite large, 500, so it's a very robust study for this sort of thing, although it was actually several different experiments. And whenever possible, he had control groups. For instance, he presented a magic performance to one group. He presented the same performance to another group, only that performance was preceded by a good introduction. Here's Joshua J., winner of the Magic Circle Magician of the Year, appeared on Penn and Teller, past president of the Merit Society, blah, 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 blah. The group that got the introduction rated the performance much higher than the group that didn't. Identical productions. They liked it better, they thought it was better, and they even spent less time thinking about how the tricks were done. So the introduction itself changed how people processed what they saw. So thank you, Alex, for making me look good. Magicians love card
You
tricks.
are welcome.
It's like a seance. There's a
Yes,
voice.
there's a voice that came out of the ear. Magicians love card tricks. If for no other reason, you can, if you're a really good magician like the late Ricky Jay or Guy Hollingworth, you can carry a whole hour with nothing but card tricks. The problem with card tricks is people don't remember them. If you do a show with a few card tricks and a bunch of other effects and ask people what they remember, they won't remember any of the cards. They'll remember that there were card tricks and somebody found a card, but they can't remember the effect at all. So if you want to be memorable, you got to do something different. And there's one exception, which I will now show you. So who'd like to help me here? Dave,
Dave, you're up.
Your turn.
Mind the cord.
Okay, so we have a deck of cards.
Should I shift to the main screen or?
We
leave it
have,
a little bit?
All right, you want to shuffle the cards or you trust me? I trust. Don't try, never trust me.
it's going out.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
So I'm going to spread the cards and I want you to take a card. I'm going to turn my back, close my eyes so I can't even see the screen. Look at that card, memorize it, show the audience. Okay, you got it? Okay, put it back on the deck.
In the deck?
On the deck. Come on the top there. I'm gonna cover it up. Now, we'll cut the cards twice. We'll see if I can find your card. Let's see. I think so. There's a joker somewhere in there. Okay. So it's one of these cards, I think. Here's the 3 of diamonds, the 2 of diamonds, 9 of spades, the king of clubs, queen of clubs. The next card I turn over is going to be your card. Do you believe that?
Until you show it to me.
I will. The next card I turn over is your card because that's going to be the queen of clubs.
Which is,
Was it not the queen of clubs?
No.
Oh. Ah. The ace of spades.
it was.
It was, okay. I did it backwards. All right, thank you. Now, so that's one trick, which you might remember because I screwed it up. So who don't help me up with the next one? Get a souvenir.
Okay.
Carl, okay, Gerhard.
Okay.
First, we start with a quarter. Write something on the quarter. You can put your initials, some arcane incantation. It's a push button.
Okay.
Some arcane incantation, the infinity symbol, MHAA, the date, your credit card number, whatever you like. All right. So we'll have that. We're going to keep that as our aid. It says you too. Okay. The rock band or the airplane.
The airplane. I'm
Okay.
aging myself.
Now we'll proceed the same way. Take a card. Okay, now look at that card, memorize it, show it to the audience. Got it?
Yep.
Okay, put it back on the deck. And this time, I'm going to put a small piece of paper here. I'm going to put your quarter on top of the paper. And I'm going to set fire to the whole works. And you notice what happened. The quarter has burned halfway through the deck. And look. And we'll see where it stopped on, what was your card?
Jack of diamonds. Jack of diamonds.
The Jack of
Wow.
Diamonds.
Yeah.
And this is your souvenir for this evening. So now the question is, which of those tricks are you going to remember when you go home? Find a card, embarrass the magician, or
Wait a minute. Did you purposefully
Yes.
mess up that first one?
actually no.
I gave you an out. I gave you a chance.
Anyhow, the exception to the worst recall of magic is you need another prop.
Okay.
So we got a quarter, and fire is always a winner. As we say in the ancient language, it's elemental.
And the idea of why card tricks are different in people's mind than other tricks.
They all flow together. Why is a good question. So volunteers. Well, it turns out people have very strong feelings about volunteering. Either they're enthusiastic or they don't want to do it at all. And if you want good participation, you need the enthusiastic ones. Fortunately, 80% of people are willing and eager to become volunteers and part of the show. 20% who don't want to. And it amounts basically to abuse to try to get those people up on stage because you don't have consent. And a good magician will case the audience and know who the good volunteers are going to be. What do people dislike about magic? Well, they don't like corny humor. Of course, I never use anything like that.
No.
They don't like abuse. Show me your hand. No, show me the clean one. Up to a trick where the magician produces a bra from the woman's bosom. I think that trick's still for sale. There isn't anybody I know who does it. Being fooled, however, well, why do people come to a magic show? They come to be fooled. They love that, with a few exceptions. There are people who they enjoy the initial effect, but then they don't want to know how it's done. They have to know how it's done, and they will hound you. We call these people engineers. And the only way to get rid of them is to turn them into magicians. People don't like seeing old tricks. I've seen that stuff before. They want to see something new. So if you do something old, you got to do it in a new way. What do they like the best? Surprise. Anything you can do to add a twist that wasn't otherwise expected will increase the audience's appreciation. So we can ask, as a scientific investigator, we have to ask our questions very carefully, like what's the best card to use in a card trick? But it can be broken down many ways. What are people's favorite cards? Which card do people name? If you ask them to visualize a card, you get a different answer. Which ones are best to use in magic tricks, et cetera, et cetera. So how you ask these questions becomes very important. So these are the kinds of things that have been studied: misdirection, decision-making, problem-solving, object permanence. When I put the coin in my hand, of course, we assume that the coin is still in my hand, which it isn't, of course, but object permanence, just like kids playing, have learned to look past peekaboo, is something that gets learned. Pattern completion. How else to explain this card? It has one spot on this side, 4 spots on this side, 3 spots on this side, 6 spots on this side. How can that be? How can you have 1 here, 4 here, 3 here, and 6 here? Well, it's obviously object completion. When I tell you 3, your brain has to fill in for the 3rd one, which is not there. Same thing with 6. If I show you 6, you will see the 6th one here. What's harder to explain is how all the spots get from one side to the other.
We're having bad focus on the camera.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so what do magicians do with all this information?
This is a trick.
No.
No,
We're trying to get us to.
it gives us a nudge. It doesn't answer all the questions because magic is still, at the end, is still an art.
It was.
So lastly, I want to go into how magic can direct science and scientific investigation, particularly psychology.
I feel better.
That's better.
Magical frameworks offer alternative, innovative avenues for hypothesis testing and experimental design even. So if you have a magician on your team, you'll be able to think of things differently. Here's a study, they started out, this is by Stephen Michnick, who wanted to investigate the cups and balls trick. And he says, we realized that magicians were among the best people at manipulating attention and awareness, far better than scientists, which we know given the number of people who fall asleep during scientific lectures. So we've been poaching their techniques, bringing them back to the labs to increase our rate of discovery. So if you're into psychological research, put a magician on your team, you'll get a new approach, and you may even get to publish something that nobody else has done. If you want to know more, did I miss a slide? Go back one. Back one. Oh, maybe I missed a slide. Oh, there it is. Whoop. Bob Friedhofer's written several books, including a couple on using magic tricks to teach science to children. This is one to teach perception to adults, so it's written for a layman. lay people. The art and science of fooling the senses. So that's Bob Friedhofer still, okay? And there we go. If you want to learn even more, you can go to the Science of Magic Association. They have an annual conference and a newsletter. Their website is scienceofmagicassociation.org. You don't have to sign up. You don't even have to give your email. It's an open website. And you can see they have all the talks from last year's meeting online. And you can, there's about a dozen topics, including can animals experience magic, up to electroencephalographic studies of people doing experiencing wonder. So just scienceofmagicassociation.org. Okay, so putting it all together. From the tomb of Beni Hassan, 800 BC, oldest trick in the world, which means I got to do something new. Well, what I'll do is we'll deal with the pandemic. Remember the pandemic? I have here 3 viruses. The coronavirus, otherwise known as SARS-CoV-2, otherwise known as COVID-19. Now, back in the beginning, we did not know how this was transmitted. So they did studies to see how long the virus lived on cloth, how long on skin, how long on plastic. Turns out copper was where the virus lived the least longest. So could that be used as a way to control the virus? Well, we'll put the virus here, place it here, and it penetrates the cup. Oh, 1, 2, 3 viruses, 1, 2, 3 cups. Maybe I need to use the other cup. And 2 viruses now. 1, 2, 3 viruses, 1, 2, 3 cups. Maybe not enough copper. And we still have 3 viruses. How does this work? Somebody tell me. Well, you put the 3 viruses right here. You place the cup on top of them. 2 viruses left. Third one has penetrated the cup. All right. So now we have to get control of the virus. 1, 2, 3. So what did we try? Hydroxychloroquine. Somebody thought we would do that. So put that in the pocket. And then someone else suggested bleach inside the body. Yes, he actually did say that. He's still with us. And more recently, horse medicine, ivermectin. Well, did it work? Well, first of all, hydroxychloroquine, no. This virus ended up in the air where we could breathe it and get infected again. And bleach, what a fabulous idea. Nope, didn't work. It ended up in the water supply. And we could actually measure the viral outbreaks without testing by assaying wastewater. And ivermectin, not so much, did not seem to work. What did work? Science, beginning with the science of public health. The Europeans determined that soccer games, large events, were super spreader events. Well, the Americans, not being too dumb, said, well, we'll have our whole season of baseball without spectators. Major League Baseball and the Republic somehow survived. But we needed more. We needed individual efforts, such as hand sanitizers and masking and social distancing. So now we had our methods cover distance and clean and Red Cross with native CDC as our mnemonic. And that bought us time for the true magic of science to produce the vaccine, which has enabled us all to be here tonight. So in summary, magic can contribute to science, science can contribute to magic, and magic is good medicine. Thank you very much. Ready for any questions? Anybody wants to try?
Marvelous. Questions?
Thank you, Willie. That was fantastic. I
I
loved
do
it.
have a question.
Thank you.
Anybody got any questions for the magician?
I do. Is this even working?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Okay. What do you know about the war magician?
War?
The war magician.
Are you talking about magic for Ukraine?
Not quite. This was, what was his name? Jasper Mescaline. Came from a
Yeah,
family of stage magicians.
yeah.
And during World War II, he created illusions, British military, to fool the Germans.
Oh, yeah, he was a consultant to when they were setting up the decoys for D-Day. And he helped them set up the false invasion that Pat supposedly was going to lead from into Le Havre.
Well, that was Patton's Phantom Army,
Yep.
It was
and
a
it worked.
very strange equation that just applies to me right now, because for some ridiculous reason, I've been watching all the NCIS shows from the beginning. And I just started NCIS LA, and I think it's the 8th one where mescaline is actually as the guy sends that back, and that's the clue for how they want the 4 people they've got to behave like an army. So I just, totally accidental, I just saw that today. Anything else? Next question.
For what it's worth, was a book called The War Magician. It's a good read, and I looked it up while Willie was doing his thing, and apparently there's going to be a film based on his wartime experience.
Interesting.
Cool.
On the other pole, there's a group called Magic for Ukraine. So magicians have been, we set up a website for Ukrainians who still had the website, and we've been supporting a couple magicians who are actually down on the front lines and in the bombed out cities doing magic for families that have been affected. And there's also a group called Magicians Without Borders, and they go around the world not only doing magic shows, but teaching kids how to do magic. One of their big projects was for girls in India who were at the lower castes and basically had, the only way they had look forward to earning money was prostitution. So they would teach them how to become street magicians. So they would have some alternative to support themselves and possibly get out of poverty.
Anyone else?
Yes, I could do one more
Oh,
thing if
please.
you would like. Actually, I have-
Encore.
All right, I have an astronomy trick. All right, let's see, but I'm going to need a volunteer. Get out this. This is called the astronomer's pouch. From the Middle Ages, astronomers would go to, and people, even, and particularly navigators, had to learn the sky. So class is in session. I have here a token representing the sun. Now, whoever wants to help me can come up here because you're going to have to read something very small.
Who can read?
That leaves us, all of
Yeah,
us
that's-
out.
that's-
Reading glasses. Yeah.
Steve, you haven't done one yet.
I'm manning the station.
Oh, okay.
I have
I guess
8
it's gonna be
cards
me.
here.
It's gonna be me.
Okay. Representing Mercury. And they all got mixed up here. And wandering planets.
Astronomy.
Venus, Earth, Mars. We have our 4 rocky planets. We have Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune. Now, which of these planets, you know this, even if you don't think you know it, had a ratio of 10.3 times 10 to the minus 8 of H3 to H2 at the age of 2.5 billion years of the universe? Which one?
That
Tell me which one.
Okay, Earth.
Earth. Okay, so you chose Earth. Well, I happen to have one more card here. It says,
It says Earth.
you will choose Earth. Very good. You passed your exam.
Oh, thank you.
All right, thank you. Oh, we got time for one more. We could do the one I've tried here 3 times before and failed. See if I can do this better. Quantum entanglement. Now, those of you who do not know, quantum entanglement is a phenomenon that says if we create, yes, this will work. I think. I don't know. Let's see, everything's set up here. Problem. This one doesn't belong in here. That's- And these 3 face cards, Queen, Jack, and King. All here. Okay, so if you create a photon by passing a high energy photon through a diffraction grating, you create a pair of photons. One will be polarized vertically, one will be polarized horizontally. And they will maintain this relationship even if you kick one of them and change its polarity, the other one will change its polarity also. And distance doesn't matter. Even separated at the distance of a galaxy, they still remain what we call entangled and in this relationship. Einstein didn't like this idea. He called it spooky action at a distance. But the experiments worked out, the math worked out, and we now believe it. I have these cards divided into 2, and they're kind of random. Somebody told me we're going to cut the cards, where to cut the cards. So I'm going to go through the cards like this. And when someone yells stop, I'm going to cut the deck right there. Stop there? Or just one more?
Oh,
It's your choice.
one more.
One more? Okay.
I think that's
All right,
called
so
a
we're going to
force.
put those cards there. And then we have these cards over here. Let's see. I think this is going to work out. So these are all mixed up too. All right, so now we have our batches of cards. Is this right? It's entangled. I don't know what happened. Quantum indeterminacy. Experiment.
More practice.
That's it?
I
Okay,
have actually
That's
seen
it.
that work once.
let's go to the diner.
Okay, okay, thank you very much.
All right. Barbara,
A last question for
yes,
Willie.
go ahead.
What is the optimal randomness of a deck of cards achieved by how many shuffles?
Oh. It depends on the method of shuffling. And I can tell you that riffle shuffling is much more effective than an overhand shuffling. And I don't know, I think basically 8 shuffles pretty much makes things pretty much random.
Well, it was about 20 years ago, somebody in the gaming industry wanted to find this out. Turns out it's number 7. That gives you the greatest randomness in a deck of cards by shuffling it 7 times. It doesn't matter what method you use.
So
Okay,
I
thanks.
have.
Well, they're
I-
in the business of taking money from you.
I have a closing thought, I think. Willie, I don't know much about magic, but I think in card tricks, there's something called a force.
Yeah,
What's that?
a force is where I make you pick a card that I want you to pick,
Okay,
even though you think you have free choice.
you have free choice, but actually you have chosen the card, not the volunteer.
Right.
So now you're combining science, fiction, and magic. So we'll say, let the force be with you. Ta-da. Okay,
Anything else for Willie? All right, we will close it out. And for those who are local, we'll head over to Pasquale's Pizza. And
And if you're nearby, join us.
if you're nearby, join us.